I'm off! 5,000-mile run across Canada! So what am I? Shout anything out. What am I? Adventureman. It's a good answer, but it's not the right one. Come on, who's going to get it?
Crazy.
Nearly, but still not the right one. Come on, what am I?
Superhero.
Still not the right answer. Come on, Google. I thought you were supposed to be intelligent. Here we go. A runner. You kept it simple.
Robot.
Still not the right answer. Come on.
Robot.
A robot. Is that what I run like? Okay, one last guess. Come on, what am I? Oh, it's true. I'm just a normal bloke from England. I'm a bit of an idiot, actually. But I found something in here, and I call it the superhero within. So I'm going to share my story, and then I hope that you find the superhero within you. So I'm going to take you back to 2012. This was the start of the biggest adventure of my life, and I put my hand in the Atlantic Ocean in Canada. And then the goal was to run all the way to the Pacific to put my hand in the ocean on the other side. Of course, I navigated and camped, but I navigated with Google Maps. So every morning I'd get my Google Maps out and then I'd kind of navigate myself. But on this occasion, there was only one road that I had to take. Only one, that was it. There was no other roads. So I get running. And then I stop and I look at Google Maps and I knew there should have been a restaurant popping up. And I look and I'm looking at the restaurant. I'm like, this is weird. I'm even further away from the restaurant. Google Maps is broken. So I keep running. And I get to 5 miles. I get Google Maps out again. I look and I'm like, I'm even further away from the restaurant. I'm like, Google Maps. And then I keep running and I see a sign. And this is what happened. I've seen that sign before. I've gone the wrong way. How have I done it? Ah! What is the life lesson in this? What is it?
Trust Google Maps. Yes.
Bingo. So how I was done it was with a backpack. So I ran with the backpack, but I weigh 60 kilograms and the backpack weighed 30. So at this point, I'm kind of running a bit like this. And then after 2 weeks of running, my foot just went crack. I don't know if you can see there, but on the left there's a black spot. So I thought my foot was broken. And so I hobble into this little town, and this doctor ends up kind of getting a bone scan, and I kind of sit in there with a doctor. Bear in mind, I've just told the whole world I'm going to run across Canada, and I'm sat with a doctor. I'm like, this isn't good news, is it, doc? And he looks at me, and he looks at the bone scan, and he goes, Jamie, this is brilliant news. He said, it's not broken, it's just ligament damage. I thought, that is brilliant, because I've only got 190 more marathons to go. So what'd you do? You got to make a change. The backpack's too heavy. What'd you do?
Get wheels.
You get wheels. And what do you get? A cart. I tell you what, you are easily one of the most intelligent people in the room. Well done for noticing my trusty Caesar. So this is him. This is the actual stroller that I ran with. He's obviously had a few tweaks. So I've got my tent, my sleeping bag, everything I could possibly own. But now all the weight is in the stroller. So it's like skipping on air, really. But another kind of few more weeks of running. And my foot, my foot kind of healed. But I started to feel an emotion. for 3 weeks of running on my own, what kind of emotion would I feel? Loneliness. I'm keeping it simple for you, no, because you couldn't answer one single thing at the start of the talk. So I did. I started to get lonely. So I saw this house in the distance, and I went up, and I knocked on the door, and I was like, "Hi, I'm running across Canada." I was like, "Is there any chance I can camp on your lawn?" But in my brain, I was just thinking, "Please let me in." This woman answered, and she said, "No, you can't. No, you can't. Off you go, will you?" And I was like, "Oh, look, I'm really sorry. I didn't want to disturb you." And she said, "Well, who are you anyway?" And I said, "Well, look, I'm running and stuff." And I said, "This is my name, you know," and I gave her a little bit of backstory. And anyway, so she looks at me, and she looks me up and down. And she says, "Wait there, will you?" And then she went off. And she came back 5 minutes later, and she said, "Right, now I've just Googled you, and you're real." So she let me set up my tent. And then she came back out 5 minutes later again, and she said, "Stop setting up your tent. There's a motel and a key waiting for you, and it's all paid for." So I entered this home as a complete and utter stranger, and I met Daisy and her family for the very first time. And we sat there and drank tea and biscuits all evening. We've become really good friends, and she supported me for the rest of the journey. But if I would have knocked on your door, what would you have done? Let me in? Yeah? Anyone else? Would you use Google? Me too. So I want to tell you about the toughest choice that I had in Canada, but you're going to make this choice as well. So to your right, you've got a shorter route across Canada. To your left, you've got an extra 15 marathons. Which road are you going to take? Just human nature, isn't it? We'll always take the easy road. The reason why I was stuck on these crossroads is that my lazy brain wanted to go the shorter road, but my heart wanted to do the extra 15 marathons. And I went with my heart in the end, and this is where I ended up. I landed into Sick Kids in Toronto, and it was the children's hospital that I was fundraising for. I had the Flash outfit at this time. All the doctors and nurses came out, and kids dressed up as superheroes. And we'd done this big, massive run around the hospital, and this doctor came up to me, and he shook my hand, and he said, "I don't know if you know, Jamie, but in the last 15 marathons, you've actually raised an extra $20,000 in the fundraising department." And I was so chuffed, like I was, as you can imagine. And then he gave me just the most beautiful line. He said, "Going the extra mile really does make a difference." Of course, again, it just filled me up, but I couldn't let it go when he said that. Because I said, "I really appreciate that, Doc." But I said, "You do need to know that was more than just an extra mile." When I was about 5 years old, I looked down at my legs, and I couldn't move them. And my mum and dad was with me, and suddenly it was a scary time. We all started crying, and eventually the doctors found that I had this rare spinal condition called syringomyelia. So I had these weird symptoms, like sometimes I couldn't move my legs, and immune deficiency and epilepsy and so on. So I spent most of my life in hospital. But when I was about 9 years old, my mum, she put this piece of string in the back garden. She said, "Jamie, do you want to play tennis?" And I remember feeling like, "Not really, Mum." But I went out there and I started cracking the ball, and I just got this love for movement. Like I just couldn't stop. I've just got to keep moving. I was like a dog. You know when you throw a ball for a dog, it's like, I've got to go. I've got to go. And after the space of a year, all my symptoms gradually disappeared, and I managed to get a lot of help from the hospital at that time. And so at 16 years old, I had this big, massive dream to be like the next big Roger Federer, but it turned out I was absolutely terrible at tennis. And so then in my later years, about 7 years ago, I was saving up to put a deposit on a house. And I went to sign the papers, and right at the last minute, I just got this gut feeling in my stomach. I was like, something's wrong. I don't know if you ever get those gut feelings. And then I went through this thought process. I've done this with paint, so this is serious stuff. What I want you to do is just close your eyes and take 15 seconds to think about what does more to life mean to you. Okay, so I just kept going through this kind of more to life. I kept posing that question. And in the end, I kind of got in touch with the hospital that helped me as a kid, and I went there and I left, and I was so inspired. I ended up buying a bicycle for £50 out of the newspaper. Now, £50 is about $100. It was one of the worst bikes known to man. And then I said to the hospital, I'm going to cycle 14,000 miles from Bangkok, Thailand, all the way back to Gloucester in England, back to the hospital. I didn't have a compass or a map. So on the first country, I kind of went the wrong way for a few countries. I managed to get back on track, and then I made it alongside the Afghanistan border, and then this is what I landed into.
Speculation that the Tajikistan people killed an Afghan general yesterday, and there's just war going all around us. Jesus. Sounds like it could be 2 miles away at least. God! I've been shot at. This is no game.
So I found myself when I woke up in the morning, and I genuinely thought it was fireworks when I first heard those noises. And then eventually I realized I was in the middle of a war zone. So what do you do when you're in the middle of a war zone? What do you do? Keep your head down, keep low. What else? Find allies. Wow, I wouldn't want to go into a war with you. Run away, yeah. So I decided to get my camera. So I was doing YouTube videos to help with the fundraising. And so when it was like 5 o'clock in the morning, I thought it was a great idea to turn the camera on and start filming. But when you turn the camera on, it gives off a flashing red light. So I'm in the middle of a war zone. So I was shot at. It's my own fault, but I wasn't hit. I ended up sharing that video on YouTube. You gotta say, the donations for the kids' hospital absolutely flew in. Brilliant for fundraising. Fuel. If you're going to cycle 14,000 miles, what do you want for fuel to keep you going? Come on. Pizza. Good choice. What else? What else do you want? Water. Yeah, that's a good, sensible option. Fantastic. Porridge. Yeah, just get some porridge wherever you are. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, this is what happened.
Buy some Coca-Cola. I sure love Coca-Cola. Yes, I do.
So yeah, I think it was too much cycling, really. I got back to Gloucester, and then I ended up Googling what was the longest ever bike ride. And it came up with this Italian guy. He sat on one of those stationary bikes for 10 days non-stop. Like, 10 days non-stop cycling. I'm like, that's impossible. You can't do that. But then I was thinking, well, if an Italian can do it. So I jumped on the static bike to attempt a new Guinness World Record. You had to keep above 12 miles an hour. If it drops once, it's the end of the record. So it's high pressure stuff. And then every hour you cycle, you can accumulate a 5-minute break. So if you pedal for 4 hours, you accumulate a 20-minute break. So I managed to keep pedaling for 24 hours to store up a 1.5-hour sleep cycle. On the first night, I led down and I was like, come on, sleep. I just couldn't do it. So then I kept pedaling for 40 more hours, and then I managed to get a 1.5-hour sleep cycle, and I made it to 8 days. Can anyone think of the worst possible pain after 8 days of pedaling? Fire it out. Bum. Great answer. So it started to bleed and blister and become infected. You ready to see this one? I wouldn't do that to you. But it was becoming serious. It was getting infected. So they ended up getting some skin specialists in, some nurses to sort the problem out. So I'm pedaling away like this, keeping above 12 miles an hour. I'm a little bit psychotic at this stage, but I just keep pedaling. And this nurse comes over, and I feel her pulling my pants down. I'm like, what's she doing? And then she takes a photo of my bum. And she goes like that and holds it up for me to see as I'm pedaling. I'm like, why would you do that to me? And then she said, I'm so sorry, Jamie, there's nothing we can do for your bum to heal. You've got to get off that bike. But it's about never giving up, isn't it? You just never, ever, ever give up. So I managed to keep pedaling. And the nurses actually came back 2 hours later, and they said, Jamie, we think we've got it to heal the infection. Manuka honey. Anyone heard of it? So it's honey, but it's an antibiotic. So she ended up slapping that on my ass, and it healed the infection within the space of 12 hours. And I managed to keep pedaling to get a Guinness World Record for 12 days non-stop cycling. Does anyone know what we're famous for in Gloucester? If you guess it right, you get a free book. I know they're all free anyway. Any guesses? What are we famous for in Gloucester? Cycling. Thank you, I really appreciate that. But unfortunately, it's not the right answer.
Never giving up.
What's that?
Never giving up.
Never giving up. Awesome, I'm feeling the love. This is what we're actually famous for. So that's what we do in Gloucester. We roll cheese down a really big hill and everyone chases after it and then they break their arms and legs.
Why?
You get to win the cheese, that's why. So after you've cycled around the world, after you've broke the world record, what would you want to do after that? Chase the cheese? No. That was just showing you where I'm from. What would you actually want to do after that? Sleep. Yeah, anything else? Take a break. I actually went and got myself a visa for Canada to go on holiday, to be a backpacker, and I was hoping to look like this. But the Children's Hospital where I'm from actually invited me in. And from the fundraising of the trips, we ended up kind of building a new school playroom with all the fundraising to help kids. And everyone in Gloucester, they kept saying, Jamie, what are you doing next? And I'm like, what are you talking about doing next? I've done enough already. But actually, it felt right. And I still had money left over from the house that I didn't buy. So I thought, wow. So I sat on my mum and dad's toilet. My visa came in, and I thought, right, let's have a go at this. So I jumped off, and I was like, Mum, Dad, I'm going to run across Canada. And then my mum, she was like, I don't think that's a good idea. And then my dad, his vein was pulsating on the side of his head, and he was like, that's exactly what you should be doing. So then we all put it into Google, and this is what we found. if you don't know who this is, it's a guy called Terry Fox, and in the 1980s, he ended up running across Canada with cancer in one leg. Unfortunately, at the halfway point, his cancer returned and he died. But to date, he's raised over $700 million. He's a superhero. Okay, so back to Canada. I met a family en route, actually, where Terry Fox's run ended. And this family, the mum took the picture of this with me and this kid. And she said to me, Jamie, whatever happens from this moment, I just want you to know that my boy Samuel, he's battling a really big illness right now, and we just wholeheartedly believe in what you're doing, and we really, really want you to make it. So it started to take off a little bit like Forrest Gump in the end. I just feel that running. But if you look at this picture, do you feel like you want to run across Canada? It looks fun, doesn't it? Looks fun. Do you want to run? There's just nothing, like, I've been out here for, I don't know, 4 days, and there's just tins of fish and butter. So it started to get pretty isolated in Canada. I've got, again, you can probably tell, I've got no support crew. So I'm just kind of running, and I'm heading into the winter. And I stayed in this family's home. This is a true story. So I left this family's home, and this mum called Jolene, she looks at me and she goes, Jamie, you're a Brit. You have no idea what the Canadian winter's like out west. She said, you're going to die. I was like, I'll be fine. You know, so off I ran. Anyway, this woman, she set up a Facebook group and she called it Stalking Mama Bears. The group grew to over 30 women, and what they would do is they would all call ahead into each town and village. So at one point, I was running into a snowstorm. I couldn't see anything, and this fire engine turns up, and this fireman, he says, get in the front of the engine and we'll drive you in and keep you safe. This is unbelievable. I can't see anything. I'm like, how did you know I was out here? And he kind of looks and he goes, the mama bears called us. It got even like deeper than that. I ended up getting a phone call from one of the mama bears, and she called me up and she said, Jamie, have you been on a date since you've been in Canada? I said, you know I haven't. I've been in the wilderness running for about 7-8 months. What are you talking about? Anyway, I forgot about the phone call, and a week later, this car shows up, and this woman, she gets out and she hands me a bouquet of flowers. And I'm like, scratching my head. I'm like, what do you want me to do with these? And she said, well, Jamie, I'm one of the mama bears. We spoke the other week. She said, what I want you to do is take these flowers, because a mile up the road, there's a camper van, a candlelit dinner, and a hot Canadian girl waiting for you. So give me those flowers. I ran my heart out. And that's the end of that story. So after 140 marathons, my foot picked up chronic tendonitis. Forget about running, just putting my foot to the floor was agony. And in this moment, the only thing I could do is actually message my dad. And this is what I sent to him. And then this was my dad's response. So I went to get my shoe on, but my foot was so swollen, I actually couldn't fit it in. So I got a pair of scissors and I cut around the shoe, and it went in, but then the shoe became floppy. So I got some duct tape, and I duct taped it all up. And then I went out there and I embraced every single painful step and just embraced the pain. So I just want to share with you. So I work in Celsius. So does anyone know what minus 45 Celsius is in Fahrenheit? Is it really? No, I think it's minus 55 Fahrenheit, smart ass. Good guess, though. So I don't know if you've ever experienced that before, but what I want you to do is I want you to imagine this. So you know your freezers at home? So double the temperature in cold, like make it double, even colder. Now what I want you to do is get your face and stick it in there. Hold it there. Keep holding. Get it right in there. Just hold it in there all day. So I ended up getting frostbite on the end of my nose and I lost a little bit at the ending of it. It's fine because I've got an absolute massive schnoz anyway. So as I came up to the Rocky Mountains, I started to get messages from police, rangers, every single person that was following the trip through social media, and what they were saying is, don't go. No one's ever crossed the Rocky Mountains in the winter, and they said snow can pile up as high as this ceiling, and if you're out there, you're going to put your life in danger. And then I received a message from a mum that I met on the trip, and the message said, "Hey Jamie, as you head into what might be the hardest and most dangerous part of your journey, I thought it might inspire you to be reminded what you are running for. You might recall Samuel, a little guy in an orange hat and a sweatshirt that you met in the city of Thunder Bay. Well, Sammy's cancer has returned and he is out of treatment options. For now, we're enjoying every day and he's living a full, joyful life as best he can. It's devastating for us, obviously, but it's also motivating to make sure that you know that what you are doing is going to change the outcome for kids like him in the future. As a normal mum, I have to say first, be careful, Jamie. But of a mum of a child facing the end of his beautiful life, I say, keep going, Jamie." So I ended up making it over the Rocky Mountains, and I landed into Vancouver, and I was a crying baby. When I got there, I had snot flying down my nose. It was really embarrassing. And then I saw it. I saw the ocean, the Pacific Ocean. This was like the day I dreamt about every single day for an entire year of running. And I put it in there. And I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. And so I just ran in and dove into the ocean, which was really silly because I nearly got hypothermia. The journey in the end, from fundraising, ended up raising $500,000 for kids' hospitals en route and also back home in England. Do you know what I didn't see coming, though? Do you remember Daisy at the start of the journey that ended up kind of Googling me and got me the motel night? I just didn't see that coming. Like, I really didn't. And or what about the doctor, that kind of, shook my hand and kind of really fulfilled my inside? Or the mama bear that got me the date. What the hell? In a way, they were my superheroes. Just take a moment now. Who are your superheroes? And who are you a superhero to? Lastly, I'm just a normal bloke from England. I'm a bit of an idiot, but I know you can tell that by now. But I just found more within here, just more. And every single one of us has that. Every single one of us. So whatever that is to you, find your superhero within. Thank you very much. What keeps driving me and what's really, really important why I do this utterly stupid stuff is I set up a charity called Superhero Foundation. And the first family that got in touch was this family here. There's a guy called James and Kate and his little girl called Charlotte. She's got cerebral palsy. And they were trying to get an operation in America to enable her to walk. They raised $30,000, but they needed another 30. And so they called me up and they said, Jamie, can you help? And I said, do you know what? I'm not really sure. And so I was like, I tell you what, how about I just come to your house? And then we'll do it from there. And so I turn up and I knock on the door, and this guy answers. He's got this big, massive beer belly on him. And he's like, hey, mate, do you want a beer or do you want a coffee? And I was like, I'll just take a coffee for now. And then I meet the family, and I said, do you know what? I think we can raise this extra $30,000. And I said to the mum and the dad, who wants to be the superhero? And they kind of pointed at each other. And then the dad, he pipes up and he goes, do you know what? He said, I fancied a challenge all my life. And I said, good, James, because I just worked out that if you go up and down our local hill 75 times, that would be the equivalent of Mount Everest. So he kind of looks, and then his wife kind of nudges him and she says, you will do that, James. And he said, right, let's do it. So he calls me up the next day. He said, Jamie, I've just done 25 summits out of the 75, and my knee is absolutely gone. It's buggered. I can hardly walk. I was thinking, what were you thinking? And in the end, I just said, you know what, James? I said, do nothing now, and I'll see you in a month now. Just don't aggravate your knee. It's going to be your motivation for your daughter, not your physicality, that's going to get you through this challenge. So a month later, we start at the bottom of the hill, and then he starts rocking it up and down. He's got to touch the headstone. It's a really steep hill as well. But after 20 hours of going non-stop, he really started to struggle. He's a big guy. And then he came down to the bottom of the marquee, and he started crying his eyes out. And I've never seen a grown man cry before. And I just looked at him. I said, what's up, James? He said, my knee is gone, Jamie. He said, I can't take another step. And he said, I just can't. And I was scratching my head looking at him thinking, there's another 40 more hours to go here. I'm not really expecting this at this time. Fundraising was at 0. So I gave him a story. So I told him about Terry Fox, with cancer in one leg. And so I just launch into this 5-minute epic story. I really focus on Terry Fox's knee for the pain to try and give him some inspiration. And then he looks up at me with tears in his eyes and he goes, what, he ran with a stump? And I was like, yes, James, he ran with a stump. And he said, all the way across Canada. I thought, I better leave out the part where Terry Fox dies halfway. So he gets up and he starts hobbling on. And he starts hobbling. He makes it to another 20 more hours, so 40 hours non-stop. And then he started to puke and he couldn't stand up. Like he could not stand up and he couldn't stomach food. So then we went up to his wife and we said, what's he been requesting for food? And she said, well, he has mentioned a McDonald's. And we're like, that hasn't been in the game plan from the day we met him. We're like, do you know what? Let's just give him what he wants. So he wakes up, and then we stuff him full of Big Mac. And then as he started hobbling on again for the last part, I thought, he's not going to make this. He needs more motivation. And all these flood of social media messages were coming in, so I decided to share one with him. And this was one of the ones that I shared. As I read it out, I could feel my throat kind of choking up. And then BBC Radio Gloucestershire were there, and they put the mic to his mouth, and he just starts pouring his heart, saying, I've just got to do this for my family. And it ended up going national, the story in the end, and hundreds of people started turning up at the bottom of the hill. This is one granddad that just saved his coppers for 20 years or something, and he said, here, take this for Charlotte. But the community just ran together. It just really built. But he started to look like this after kind of 45 hours.
Mate, this is much better going.
He made it with 10 summits left, and we just said, you know what, again, he had to walk down backwards in the end. His knees got so bad. And so we had the marquee down there. We thought, let's give him some more motivation. So we put the posters, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. So he'd have to visually go and rip each one. And so eventually James gets to number 4. And bear in mind, he's a really quiet and humble guy. And he gets to number 4 and he rips it down. He looks at everyone. He's like, come on! And then he eats it. I was like, James, are you feeling okay? He then started to run up and down the hill. No one could keep up with him. And on the final hill, we all went up to the top of the summit, and we made it. And I went up and I said, James, I said, you have now conquered Mount Everest. And he had no idea with the fundraising target. And we said, just so you know, you've smashed over $30,000. Charlotte's got her operation in America, and she will be walking for the rest of her life. And then what we'd done is we had Charlotte and we wheeled her over in the wheelchair. And he gave her a big, massive hug. And then we set off fireworks. And that was the start of Superhero Foundation. So this is the time to ask where if you can give, I know Google actually matches the give. My dream is to put Superhero Foundation and build the crowdfunding platform and inspire communities all across the country and change sick kids' lives forever. That's my mission. So if you can give, that would be absolutely amazing. I volunteer my time with the charity, and I always will do. So every single dollar that you spend will change a kid's life. So when you leave here, you're going to take on the biggest superhero challenge of your life, aren't you?
Yes.
And then when you do, you'll achieve it, because you always do. Do you think it's really, really important that you then scream, who's the daddy? This is the final summit of the Rocky Mountains. As I hit the summit, it was all downhill into Vancouver after this. Thank you very much. You've been awesome. I think this is it. It's the summit. Who's the daddy? Who's the daddy? Who is the daddy? I'll tell you who the daddy is. I'm the daddy. I am the daddy. I just got salt in my mouth. I'm the daddy.